we'll have a discussion on saturation logic today. So the saturation logic, what we consider here, is used to avoid overflow or underflow which occurs during the process of any operation like multiplication, addition, etc. So if I go with overflow and underflow, that results during any operation, then if the result is exceeding some value, that is if it is exceeding the most positive number, or if the result falls below a least negative number, then the accumulator cannot handle that particular result. Okay, so whatever number we are going to get as the result will be beyond a most positive number or below a least negative number, so that shouldn't happen. So it can be resolved by loading the accumulator with the most positive number which can handle at the time of overflow. So the accumulator is already loaded with a positive number, which is a most positive number. So that is nothing but a saturation logic circuit which is going to be used in this process. The least significant or the negative number, it can handle at the time of underflow. So either a positive value is loaded into the accumulator or at least a negative value is loaded into the accumulator. And this method of loading these numbers into the accumulator is considered as a saturation logic. So the schematic of saturation logic is this, wherein the multiplexer, or what we consider a block, which is in which the most positive value or the least negative value is being loaded into, and the sign bit is also loaded into the same multiplexer block. In a saturation logic, as soon as the overflow or underflow condition is satisfied, the accumulator will be loaded with some number, that is depending on either it is a overflow or underflow which occurs during the process. So here we go with the most positive or least negative number. So if overflow or underflow exist, then depending on Ci and C0, that is carry in during the process of addition or carry out, which is after the addition. Now the least negative value or most positive value is loaded into the multiplexer, so that the sign bit and the multiplexer will multiplex the least negative value or the most positive value into the accumulator. So that gets loaded into the accumulator. We can see that that is loaded in the accumulator. And depending on Ci and C0, depending on the state of Ci and C0, whether both are same or both are different, the XOR gate is going to produce some value. So if both are 0, or if both are equal, then it is resulting in 0. If both are unequal, then it produces 1, so that the overflow or underflow is pointed to the accumulator, or condition is highlighted into the accumulator. So that is about the saturation logic. So this we can see with further elaborated block which can be also used. So 1 and 1 is giving us 1, like that. Depending on that, we are going to use the accumulator, and the multiplexer is loaded with the most positive or the most negative value. So either we can go with the previous saturation logic diagram or with this logic diagram. So both are same. Then ALU, so whenever we go with the ALU, it is the arithmetic instructions which can be done in the DSP device, or it can be supported by a DSP device, and also the logical operations which can be supported by that as well. So addition, subtraction, multiplication, etc., increment, decrement, followed by the logical operations such as performing AND, OR, NOT, and XOR operations. So the block diagram of this typical ALU for a DSP will be dealt later, and it consists of several blocks. One is a status flag register, which is used to indicate the status of this particular registers, like if the result is 0, the flag is going to be set. If the result is positive, if the result is having even number of ones or zeros, so that is identifying the status of that particular value. So it is used to identify the state of a particular value in a register. So that is nothing but status flag register. Then register file. Register file is a collection or a set of registers which are stored in the particular bank. Okay, so it is nothing but similar to a bank of registers what we normally use or consider in a microprocessor, and it has got a multiplexer. So what does this status flag include? Status flag includes the arithmetic and logical operations which can be carried out, that may be a sign, zero, carry and overflow condition. So these status flags are used to identify this status of the number. So this is what the ALU of a DSP looks like. So it has got a register file which has got a set of registers and a data bus which is used to support a set of data. Then register files into a multiplexer. So we have n number of register files which holds several registers, and once the mux is used and using a register, the ALU is nothing but arithmetic and logic unit will perform certain operation based on the code what has been written in a particular instruction. Then the result is stored in the accumulator, and status flag will be giving the highlights or a status of particular number or status of a particular flag, whether it flag is set, whether the flag is reset, and so on. Overflow management. So depending on the status of this overflow or the sign flags, the saturation logic can be used to limit the accumulator content. So we already seen that the saturation logic is used for the accumulator to overcome some drawbacks to avoid overflow or underflow in the case of DSP system. Then a register file. So instead of moving a data in and out of the memory, for better speed, a large set of general purpose registers are used. That's what I told you earlier. Register file is nothing but a set of registers similar to a bank of registers which is observed in a microprocessor. Then what we have is a bus architecture and memory. So normally we come across two different architectures which are used in the DSP system, DSP processor, that is von Neumann architecture and Harvard architecture. So whenever I go with the conventional microprocessor, that is going to use this von Neumann architecture. With this architecture, we see that there is the same memory which is used to store both program and data. So in this case, we can see a single processor and a memory connected to it, and this has got a single memory unit. So address and data is shared by this memory unit. So this is very simple when it comes to the architecture, but it requires more number of processor cycles for the execution of any instruction. So that is because the same bus is shared by both data and the program. So that is, bus is used by both the data and program. So sharing of bus is required, which reduces the speed of the instruction execution. So what has to be done in order to increase the speed of operation? In order to increase the speed of operation, separate memories are required. One is to store a program, the other is to store a data. So we require separate buses for data and address lines. So that is, we use a architecture which is termed as Harvard architecture. So we can see that Harvard architecture structure wherein the processor is having two different memories. Here there is no need of sharing the memory separately from address or data bus. So we can see that for program memory we can have address and data access. Similarly, with the data memory, it can access the address and the data as well. Then here we come across one drawback if we use just a processor and a program memory and a data memory, because if the number of data are exceeding, if the number of data are more, because when we go with DSP implementation, the number of data or the samples are very high. So I cannot just use a single data memory so that I can fetch all the samples or all the values from the memory. So what I do, I will have a set of data memories. So we can see that one program memory is used, followed by a memory, which is a data memory. So we call it as a Harvard architecture with dual data memory. We can see that this is the first data memory, this is the second data memory. So whatever access is done by the program memory for address and data, the same operation is carried out by these dual data memories. But there should be a trade-off, as I already told you regarding the trade-off between a speed and the cost. So that is when I go with the dual data memory, the block has got complexity, or the architecture complexity is very high, because it has got two different data memories and a single program memory, where the architecture becomes more complex compared to a architecture which has got only a single program memory and a data memory. So it also increases the cost, and it also may reduce the speed while selecting the architecture for this particular DSP. Then we go with on-chip memories. So for faster execution of DSP function, we require a memory which is located on a chip. So such memories are on-chip memories, which can execute any given instruction very faster than. It should have some dedicated buses which can access the memory on chip memory, so that they are performing very fast. So speed and size are the two different factors when we consider on chip memory. So speed of the execution of any instruction should be very high, and the size of that on chip memory should be very small. Then whenever I go with the speed, the on-chip memories should match with the speed of the ALU. So that is very important. Whenever I go with the speed matching, on-chip memory should match with the speed of the ALU operation, so that within a single instruction execution, uh, most of the operations are to be carried. Then comes the size, whereas in the size, the given area of the DSP chip depends. It is desirable to implement it on a very smaller given area, because if I consider a DSP chip, the size or the area of the DSP chip is very small. If I consider this as the area, within this area of the chip, I have to implement most of the operations, which is done by several blocks like adders, multipliers, etc. So the area occupied by the on-chip memory should be minimum. So whatever area which is occupied by the memory, that should be very less. Then organization of on-chip memories. So this is just an idea where we are going to focus on the area of the chip, and the area of that particular on-chip memory should be very less, which can accommodate on the DSP device. And whatever operation is done by using the on-chip memory onto the processor, the whole operation should be completed in a single execution cycle. So that is to be noted when we go with the organization of the memory to the chip or the processor. So the following are some of the ways in which the on-chip memory can be organized. So how to organize it? As many DSP algorithms require instructions to be executed repeatedly, because we require repetitive addition, repetitive multiplication, which is to be carried out when we go with the DSP algorithm. Because whenever we go with finding a DFT using say FFT algorithms, we are going to consider a single stage of butterfly operations which is to be carried out, and the same is used for the remaining stages of operation or computation. So the instruction can be stored in the external memory, and once it is fetched, it can reside in the instruction cache. So this is what we require. Once the instruction is stored in the external memory, it has to be fetched and it has to reside in the instruction cache. The access times for the memories on chip should be sufficiently small whenever we compare it with other memory units, so that the execution should be done within a single execution. Then coming to the data addressing, so whenever I go with any data addressing capability of a programmable DSP is to be configured, and it is to be supported by the device. So we look into several addressing modes. It is just a way of specifying an operand in instruction. For example, if I just go with the instruction which is used in 8086, say for example move a comma b. So this is an instruction which is used to just move or transfer the data from b to a. So B is a register and A is also a register, which is normally considered to be an accumulator. So the data which is stored in B is transferred or moved from B to A. So this is the basic instruction what we normally come across in a microprocessor. Similarly, we have DSP addressing modes. This is a way in which we specify an operand in an instruction. So these are the operands and this is the opcode which is performing a particular task of moving a data. So similarly, if I go with the DSP addressing mode, we have immediate addressing mode, register addressing mode, direct addressing mode, indirect addressing mode. So these are the addressing modes what we normally use in a DSP processor, and we see that the operand is a immediate value. So the immediate value is operand and the register contents are the operand in the register addressing mode, and in a direct addressing mode we have a memory address register wherein the address of a particular memory is specified in a register. Then comes the indirect addressing mode wherein we have the memory contents with the address in a register. So this is what we require when we go with indirect. It is indirectly pointing towards a particular location or the memory content within which we have some data which is having the address in a register. So we can see that the sample format add immediate data. So it is an instruction which is used to add the immediate data. Similarly, add the data into a register or with the register. Add the data with the data which is in the memory location. Add the data to a register which is having the address. So this is what we see in terms of operation. Immediate data plus the content of the accumulator where the data gets stored in the accumulator. Contents of the register plus the contents of the accumulator will be stored in the accumulator. So whatever operation you are going to do, whether addition, subtraction, multiplication or any logical operations, and if I use this particular instruction with the on immediate, register, direct and indirect operating mode, then we see that by default the accumulator itself is a register. So whatever addition is carried out, the contents of the accumulator is going to be used, and also the result which is to be stored, that is to be stored in the accumulator A only. So memory plus A, again it gives to it is sent to A. Address of the register and the content of the accumulator, again it is going to be to A. So we can see that in immediate addressing mode, data is included in the instruction itself. Whereas in register addressing mode, the registers will hold the data and the register has to specify the instruction. So this is what we see, the register has to be specified in the instruction. So we consider it as a register addressing mode. Then direct addressing mode, in this addressing mode, instruction will hold the memory location of the operand. So the operand where it is, it has got some memory location. So by looking into the memory location, we can identify where exactly the operand is stored. So that is a direct way of addressing any instruction. Then indirect addressing mode. In this indirect addressing mode, the operand is accessed using a pointer. The pointer is normally a register which holds the address of the location. So this register will hold the address, and this address will specify the operand. So in this particular address or a location, the operand is stored. Then, so here under indirect addressing mode, we have several types. One is post increment, pre increment, and post decrement and pre decrement. So these are just increment and decrement depending on the register content, whether you are going to increment first then move, or you are going to move first then increment, or you are going to decrement first then move, or you are going to move first then decrement. So this is what we consider under the addressing mode. Whereas the other four is nothing but post as well as pre along with the offset. Offset address is specified, it is just a value which is specified. Offset is a displacement. So displacement value is specified in the instruction, based on which either depending on the instruction, the content is going to be moved into the accumulator, then the offset register address is going to be added with the content of the register, then it is stored in the register. or the other way, you are going to perform addition first with the address, then you are going to store it in the accumulator. Similarly with the subtraction, so even this subtraction can be done by considering the data, or what we call it as the address, which is separated or subtracted from the address of the register, followed by the transfer. So this here we can see that the transfer is done, then the subtraction is done followed by a transfer. Here we can see that first transfer is done followed by the transfer. So this is what we see, first transfer followed by the subtraction. So this is regarding the indirect addressing mode.